and I was very excited to be here. And I belong from India. My name is Mahesh. I am a full stack developer. So first of all, everyone is comfortable here? Nice. Cool. And even before proposing this talk, I talked with Mike that how is the community in React, like whether should I pick up beginner or little advanced. Then I got to know that majorly a lot of people do React. Is it so? React? Anyone who hates React? Oh, yeah, you. Nice. Yeah, back to. Okay, cool. Then we'll, at the end of the discussion, I'm majorly talking about one React component lifecycle. So let's see how we go about that. Feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions about any slide. Which, okay, hello, it's not working somewhere. Yeah, mine is Mahesh. I am a YouTuber. I narrate stories online in Hindi, so probably you will not understand. I'm a blogger. I write in medium.com. I'm open source contributor. I have created few tools in React majorly. And speaker, I have been speaking in India in various colleges, teaching about web development, React, HTML, video editing, Photoshop design, and here and there. Cool. Talking about React.js, this is the official one-liner introduction of React.js, which says React.js is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. So in React, we build user, that everyone knows. But why user interface? That's why I have made it more bold. User interface is generally one area where user interacts with that, right? So React is that. Not more than that, not less than that. So talking about user interfaces and the React, and whenever talking about React, everyone would burst their minds with components, right? That is React. So most of you would be familiar of what I'm talking about. So if this is my Twitter homepage, then probably I can divide the whole page in few modules, few components, which has its own responsibility that we call pure function. So suppose if this is my Twitter homepage, then probably this can be one component which handles only about the recent trend. That can be my profile info, and that can be one tweet. And every of these components has its own control in its own way. To summarize more, if we can consider this as one television screen, another television screen, and every television screen has its own compact disc or DVD player and its own control, its own remote. Are you getting me? And this is the process. For example, if there was one close button, this display or television will go away. And if there is any update or number of tweets has increased, this number will get updated. Similar way, the DVD player does to the television. And every corner, for example, this television can be subdivided into two parts, one and another as the timeline picture. And this television can be divided again into three parts as tweet number, following number, and follow number. And why this is helpful, just like reusable functions, we write modular small functions, right? In the same way, for this particular television or component, we could have written only one component and looped it to 3 times and by passing one title and number, title, number, title, number. And same goes for the post visibility. There is only one component, one function, call it pure function, and that is getting repeated again and again. Simple, right? And that is only React, and React is that simple. Cool. Because here we are, React itself is a big library, and it has a lot of fundamentals, but still today we are majorly talking about lifecycle of a component. So everything has a component, everything has a lifecycle. Consider yourself, consider trees, consider a React component, or a button in any of the HTML document. Everything takes birth, it updates during its lifespan, and at one point of time it dies. Whenever you close the tab, or when you die, or when the or when the React component disappears, right? It's that simple. It's user interface its users. That's why it has lifecycle like we do have. Cool. So React component generally, or any other thing, you and me, everyone has 4 cycles: initialization, mounting, updating, unmounting. I'm using mounting because this has officially been used by React, but I'll try to relate or make you understand what exactly mounting is. For example, if we consider how you took birth, your parents planned about you. That's, no, not at all. So who are the unplanned babies here? Okay. I'm the first baby, so probably I think I'm also unplanned. The second and third and the consecutive are the planned ones, right? So initialization is your part when your parents were planning about you. Like, you're getting my point, right? You were getting initialized, and one fine day, yesterday was Valentine's Day, probably few of the more childs got mounted. So this is the mounting phase of your life. Yes, yours, everyone's. And then updating. Everyone, you are getting updated by React component lifecycle knowledge now. So we are getting updated. That is updating, and this can be forever, can be for 10 years, can be for 20 years, any point of time. That depends whenever God wants you not to be updated anymore. So that cycle goes on, goes on. There's only one time, for sure, that we understand. And unmounting, one fine day, you are no more needed in this world. That is unmounting. Just to compare it with the user interfaces, because React creates user interfaces. You can initialize, you can mount it on the browser. Talking about React.js, mounting means putting something onto the browser. Like, because the browser is the playground area, and from there only user can interact. Or if it is React, then browser. If it is React Native, then probably mobile app screen, or wherever the client is running upon. Okay, that's fair, easy. So this is the big picture, what exactly we are talking about. Initialization has some setup and setup of props and state. We'll talk about props and state. Mounting, when the component is about to get mount and then render happens. Everyone knows render, right? Rendering. We'll talk more. Updation, because any React component depends on 2 things. One is prop. Prop is equivalent to parameter. And another is a state. Every component has its own state. Like for me, any girl has its own mind of state, which changes depending on a lot of things. So that is a state of the mind kind of thing. And props is parameter. Where parameter is something like that. If you give gifts to someone, then someone gets happy. So that is the parameter. But state is the effect of the gift, probably, just to summarize it. And which has 2 different flows, what happens. We'll talk in detail about this, but about props, about states, and unmounting happens. Cool. Why does it matter? Why should we know about lifecycle methods? Any guesses? Why? Yes? Yes, please? Things happen, and we need to know when. What more? Why should we talk, or why should we invest our time in lifecycle, understanding lifecycle method, or why you have come from all your... Yes, Mike, please.
Because we care about performance.
Right. Totally right. How lifecycle is related to performance. Consider you are the developer of YouTube app. As a user, you're playing one video, it buffers, there is a stream of connection, and every time the network is getting used, server is responding with the video buffer. For example, meanwhile watching the video, you switch to WhatsApp or some other application. Then, being a better developer, you should handle that whenever the user is leaving the app, stop buffering, so that you can better use the memory, better use the battery, better use the network, right? So if you know, lifecycle is all about the preparation, the quality of that. For example, if you know that I'm about to die, then probably you will fulfill all your last moment wishes, right? If you know that, for example, your parents, when they got to know that you are mounted, then probably they will prepare about you, right? And suppose there was no planning at all. that would have been more worst than today you are. Okay, so that is why it matters. It matters a lot. We should know where what happens so that accordingly we can fit, because our programming language, our application is dumb. It's dumb, right? We as developers give some mind to that in this condition you have to perform like that. In that condition you have to react like that, right? So that is why it is important. Cool. Talking about render. A render method is the main method of any component which returns what to mount on the browser. Exactly, everyone knows. So probably this is one of the example which when first time I saw the equivalent of render, that this is a JSON object kind of thing, I just liked it, so I thought that I'll share with you guys as well. So every render method is the main method kind of thing of one component which returns some. This can be produced dynamically via loop. This can be dynamic number. This can be dependent on props or something like that. That's another detail, or that can be discussed totally on React. But to summarize, this is the equivalent of render, that every render will be having a type, its props, its children, and this tree can go like an arrow shape, the number of children it has, as to simplify that. Again, talking about that example which we were talking, that every Twitter page or any page can be divided into multiple television. So for example, consider this television. So when this has to be loaded on the browser, that has to be initialized, prepared, that compact disk, right? And then you will mount on it. Then once you mount, it will display it, and it will keep on updating, just like any DVD player or anything does. So consider this as the example. So, and if you click on any cross button, this display and this compact disk player will go away. So just as simple as that. Okay, in initialization, because we said initialization, when the component is about to mount, before that you have to initialize, and we said that any component depends on props and state. So probably like default parameters we know on the functions, right? So this is equivalent to, we do the default prop. If the prop was not passed, then what should we consider? And what is the initial state? And for example, state also, there has to be some initial point, whether it can be null or it can be with some considering values. And to make sure that we are understanding the concept which we are talking today, I'll try to make sure that we are creating one application that is maybe music player. This is the sample code of that. So for example, if I want to load my music player, first time it should be loaded with some configuration, right? For example, volume should be 70%, status should be paused or played or stopped. And same way, your component can be dependent on props, which is being passed from the parent's parameter, or it can have its own state. To summarize how the default props are, so default prop can be theme, can be dark. And for state, volume can be 70, status can be pause. So if you do not pass, when rendering this particular music player onto your anywhere, you can pass nothing. It will load with its default configuration, like default parameter. And if you pass some parameter like theme equal to light, it will replace with this one. It will not pick the default parameter. So that is default props and initial state. Any questions on this? I think fairly simple, right? You guys are genius. Great. No questions. Mounting. Everyone knows mounting, right? So this is component will mount. That mounting is about to happen. As the name suggests, this is the method component will mount. At this point of time, it says that I'm just about to mount. Do you want to do something? Do you want to? Is there any action you want to do before mounting? That happens here. Okay, and after the component has been mounted, yes, component did mount. Are you getting my point? Am I able to explain? Yes. Nice, cool. Okay, so because now there is a huge debate going on the internet that whether should we merge component will mount and constructor. That makes sense, right? Because constructor, whenever you are creating object of that particular component, I'm talking specifically in ES6. So there is a constructor. Constructor will be always called first before mounting, obviously, and component will mount also will get called before mounting. So what's the point having two different kind of constructor? So still, I have not got the right answer, but we can debate on that. Component did mount. Component did mount says that yes, component has been mounted on the browser, obviously. So why this can be important? Because, for example, when you're using some third-party libraries, apart from Reactjs, maybe consider highcharts or D3. Everyone is familiar with that, right? Super. Or any graphing library, or maybe jQuery. You want to use some parts of jQuery in Reactjs. You can do that, though that is not recommended, but still. So for those kind of libraries, you want divs and all those tags in the HTML browser so that then you can catch it. So that happens here. Component did mount. Because in React, we talk a lot about virtual DOM and all those stuff. If your HTML structure is in virtually, then you cannot apply those libraries, right? Simple as that. So this is one of the example. Component after component has been mounted, component did mount, we can apply highcharts library. I'm not going too much into the code detail, then probably we will have to extend into a few hours or something like workshop, so which I don't want. Or probably Mike did not give me that slot. That's unfair, Mike. Cool. Talking about updation, because that was all about, this is all about mounting. Will mount, did mount, that is it, right? Now, talking about updation and any component depends on two things, props and states. So when props is passed, you will have prop will receive that before receiving the prop properties. Why this is important, we'll talk again. Should component update. Now, should component update because this is present only this one. In the initialization or in the mounting phase, component will be mounting for sure. That is first time. But in this phase, while updating is the second time render is getting called. Just pause me if I'm getting too speedy way. In updating, it's like already there is a DOM of the same copy. I'm going to update that one. Now there will be a question: should I update the component? Should I re-render? Why?
The data doesn't change, don't we?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe your render is very heavier, probably, and maybe your render or your component change can be dependent on any one change, right? So there is a open API for this. Open method is that you can control that one, that whether you want to update the component or not. As this is a question, should component update? Answer would be yes or no. Hence, it expects to return true or false. And component will receive props, or component will update, or component will mount. It is not a question. It's a statement. So there will be only functions. There will be only actions. So should component update returns true or false, which you can obviously control. That if the current props value is greater than previous props value, then update. Otherwise, I don't want the updation. Right? For example, if you're creating some confidence building application where you only want to show to the user that you are improving every day, be it fake or be it something like that, then probably you will write the logic that if the today's score is less than yesterday's score, then do not update. Something like that. Okay. Component will update, it's equivalent to component will mount. That before updating or before showing, because showing in the browser happens here. So before showing, I want to do this. Why this is again important? It's again some preparation you want to do before rendering. Then component did update is again like component has updated. Now do you want to do? Now this is equivalent to component did mount. How? Because in component did mount, we were using with this new set of DOM, you can apply third-party library. Now, if those value again changes or the structure again changes on the browser, then probably again you will have to refresh or reapply those libraries. Try to get it. Try to sync in it. It is equivalent to component will mount. Are you with me?
Yes.
Nice. Then again, other set of updation happens in in set state kind of thing. But you will see only difference is that in this section, there is no component will receive props. Obviously, we understand that, right? And rest, this is equivalent, this is equivalent, this is equivalent to that. Component did update is equivalent to that. Because sometimes our component depends on the state. It is major. Like, for example, if you're creating counter, plus and minus button, and there is one counter which keep tracks. So if you want to increment the number on the browser every time user presses plus, then that shows that the user has to, the UI has to refresh every time the count increases. And that happens using the this.setState. This.setState is again a little magic kind of thing, which re-renders every time whenever the state is changed. So that is the fundamental of React.js. Should component, if I talk about example, so in should component you get the next prop and the next state, and obviously still the component has not refreshed, so still you have the access to this, the current prop and the current state. So you can compare statuses and then return. For example, should I update? If the status has not changed, then do not update. Do not do the heavy work. Right? As simple as that. And then component will update. It's equivalent to component will mount, where you can prepare. Like, for example, we did some initialization, right? Before rendering or before mounting, do some calculation. Maybe, for example, I want to show some number on addition of 2 props. This is the preparation, right? So this will happen on component will update. That before going to the render part, or you render on some number, you render some particular number on the div, you prepare yourself better. Component did update if you want to refresh your libraries or some third-party dependency. Why props is component will receive props. Now again, component will receive prop is why important. Sometimes what we do, we assign some props to the state. So our state depends on the prop. So that kind of way you have to update the state as well. So in that case, if you are receiving new props, then you have to also update the status or the state, right? So this is why it is required that whenever I'm receiving a new prop, I want to do some refreshment, some processing, or some cleaning. This is a very simple example. In real time, we have more complicated examples, more complicated problems. Now, we reach to component. Before we go to component will and mount, is there any question on updating? Should I repeat anything? Yes, please.
Do you have access to the this in the constructor?
Yes.
You do?
Yes. It's equivalent to any other constructor, like you coded in Java, right?
Yeah, because the reason why I'm asking is because of what you said earlier about, you know, the equivalence of the constructor to the initial
Component will mount.
So if you've got access to the this, then it makes sense why
That's
it's
right.
a contention.
Yeah. So it's just like duplication of the constructor. Any other question? I can repeat the slides for the updation, because updation has got various methods, 2 different kind of updation. So it's better we clear all the doubts now. I do not want anyone to take some baggages of doubts to the home. And then you will be coming to India. Yes, tell me. Any questions? It's fairly simple. Initialization, mounting, updation happens via 2 ways, props, state, because component depends on these 2 parameters, state and prop. Prop has component will receive prop, component will receive should component update true. If returns true, then rest continues. If it doesn't return true, then it stops there. It does not render again. Same happens with states. Any questions? Guys? Are you really genius? Nice. Cool. We talked about this. We talked about this. Unmounting. Unmounting. It's like death, right? Why do we need to know or need to write some logic when you are unmounting? Obviously, when you are logging out, or if there is some timer, or if there is some subscription to some API or some data stream, so you need to clear that, because now the component is not needed, that connection is not needed. And if you're logging out, that if your component is log out, then on logout, on component will unmount, you have to clear all the session, all the clearance majorly happens. It's like all whole life, whatever bad things you have done, before death you have to clean it up, right? By confessions and whatnot. And will there be another method called component did unmount? Should there be? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't exist, then who will tell? For example, I'm telling, yes, I got mounted, I got birth, I'm updating, I'm about to die, and after dying, yes, I'm died. So that is not happening. That's why we don't have any further methods like component did unmount. Who will tell? If the component has died, because all these methods are inside one component, its own parameter, its own attributes, right? So if the component has died, component will not come in ghost version that, yes, I have died, right? Nice. Any questions? Cool. So just to summarize again, I think I want everyone should have the impression of this diagram on their mind, so that, because it's really fairly important to understand. For example, I'll share. Last year I started on React, and I was on for almost 1 year of the project. After coding in React in 6 to 7 months, then I got to know a lot or in detail about the component lifecycle. Then I looked back to my code and I was hating myself. I was hating myself. That why? So it's fairly important we understand why we are doing, how we are doing, and what else we can do, how we can extend our method, how we can make more performant, as Mike said, right? So here we are. That was me, Mahesh. So I write on Medium. So this whole talk was also on one of my Medium blog, which has got good claps and good views on medium.com. So you can follow me on Medium. I write blogs on APIs, on React, and next time writing on GraphQL, authorization, authentication. You can follow me. Obviously, I'm increasing my follow counts. You can follow me on Twitter. So, and there is a small feedback form, only 2 or 3 questions. Please, I would request you if you can log in there, not log in, go there and submit some feedback for me so that I can see how well I performed or how I should do.